What's going on, folks? In this video we're going to go over sequence types in Python, and the main sequence types being lists, tuples, sets, ranges, and strings. Here's some notes here on the screen, and you'll see lists are defined with flat brackets. Tuples are defined with curly brackets. So let's start with lists. A list is similar to an array in other languages. One difference being that lists their size can be changed after creation. So you can add values to them. So they are changeable in that way. So you define them with flat brackets. So my list equals 1, 2, 3. And you're able to print lists. You're able to print these sequences out like this, except for range, because you're able to print these list types basically out. So I'm going to print it out, and you'll see 1, 2, 3 printed down here, and that's your list. In the next video we're going to go over some operations on these sequence types, so I'm just basically showing you how to define them and basically defining them what they are. So my tuple equals 1, 2, 3. Now before we do that, I'll show you that your list can also have different types in it. Say if you wanted to have a string, and a float, you could have different types inside of your list. So run, print. Okay, it shows you down here. The list is 1A and 3.0. Alright. My tuple. And you want to have parentheses on the outside. Say if it's 1, 2, and 3 again. The difference between a list and a tuple is that a tuple, you cannot change it after you define it. So it's constant. So you don't want to define a tuple until you know that, this is going to be what it is forever, kind of thing. And run. See, it's 1, 2, 3. And again, you can have different values inside of it. Let's do another string, and say if you want to put a list inside of it, you could do that too. Should be able to. Okay, so print my tuple and you get just exactly what it was before, because that's what it is basically. But basically the definition here is important, that you have these parentheses on the outside here instead of the flat brackets. Okay, a set is defined with curly brackets. And I'm defining it similarly like that. 1, 2, 3. Printing it out just to show that it is what it is. What is a set? A set is like a list, except you cannot have repeat values in a set. So no repeat values allowed. So if I try to do 1, 2, 2, I should get some kind of an error here. Or it actually took out the second 2. It kind of took it out. So you don't want to do that unless you wanted the 2's to go away. Say if you had a list say if my list was defined as 1 comma 2 comma 2, if you're working with that list, you could do my set equals set of my list, and that'll convert the list to a set. And what is that going to do? It's going to take away one of the 2's, just like we saw a second ago when I printed out here. Okay. Now, what if we don't want to have a set? What if we want to have it as a list? We want to keep using a list going forward. So you can call it list, my list, no repeats. Maybe you want to call it that, and you can convert that set to a list, right, like this, and print my list, no repeats. And there we go with 1 and 2 again, because the repeated ones, say if you had extra 2's, if you had that stuff, and you run it, all your repeated 2's go away, or your repeated values, whatever they are. Okay, because you had converted to a set and back to a list, but you have so you have a list here returned. All right. Now let's talk about ranges. A range is, you could define a range is a range of numbers. Like, for example, I could do my range equals range 10, and then I'm not going to be able to print this. I shouldn't be able to print it. If I try to print it, I'll get, oh, it actually says range 10, but it doesn't actually tell you what it is. If you want to see what it is, you can convert it to a list. And you'll see that it is 0 through 9. If you do a range 10, it starts from 0 index and it goes all the way through n minus 1, n being 10. And you see in the definition it says start, stop, and step. So if you wanted to have 2 or 3 values in it, you could say if you wanted the range from 1 to 9, you could do range 110. Oops. Something like that. Now we have 1 through 9 if you wanted to do 1 through 9 instead of 0 through 9. And say if you wanted to skip every 2 values and go in that range like that. 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. Now we're getting every odd number this way. And that's your step, defining as 2 being your step, which is an option, one of the optional values for that. That's a few different ways you could use your range to define your values you're ranging through. Now, what's range good for? Very commonly, range is used for for loops. So for value in my range, print string value. Now we'll go through and it's going to print them each one by one in the list, except it'll be like that. So what if you wanted to, what if your range was range 10 again? If you wanted to go through numbers 0 through 9, you could do this way. And it's going to go all the way through 9. And if you're doing some kind of um, value equals value times 2. Say if you're doubling each value, for example, or whatever operations you're doing in your within your for loop, you can put that here, and you can work on the values in that range. Okay, strings is also a very important one. Now, a lot of the operations with strings and lists, they're kind of like the same operations. It's one of the things that makes it easy to do operations on both strings and lists. Um, so string is defined with single quotes or double quotes. So my string equals hello world, and my second string equals hello universe. Okay, both of these are going to be treated like strings equally. So if I say print my string and run it, hello world, and print my second string, and run that, take out the syntax error, and we get hello universe. Or we could have just done straight off print hello world that way, of course. Okay, now what if we had something like a single quote was part of the string, or a double quote was part of the string? That's one reason why it's good to have two different ways of introducing strings. So what if the string was David's car is black? Well, then this is not going to work because you have a odd number of parentheses here. You have odd number of single quotes, I mean. So you want to change the outside to use double quotes in this case, and that way it'll work out. And you could say David's car is black. What if you have double quotes? What if you wanted to have double quotes in your string and single quotes? Then you can escape using a single slash each of your double quotes, and let's see here what's wrong. It's actually a backslash, not a forward slash. So if you use a single backslash, you can escape out the character after it, so it'll ignore it as a double quote or single quote. In this case, I'm escaping out the double quotes and run it, and so this way I'll have the double quotes as well as single quotes in the string that I'm printing out. Alright, and that's our introduction to sequence types, including lists, tuples, sets, ranges, and strings. Stay tuned for the next video, which will be on operations on these sequence types. Thanks a lot for watching, and stay tuned.